co-teachers, Sugar and Spice, and they're about to run off. But these are my cute little babies, and they're here to help me teach today. It is a lovely rainy day, so that's why we're inside. And I thought today, since I wanted to use the wall and we have to be inside, it would be a good time to work on inversions. Also, I've been cooped up inside all day, so I really need to go upside down a little, and there might be some other people out there that need that as well. So inversions basically just means going upside down, getting your feet above your heart, and there are many different ways to do that. I'll start off teaching a few more just easy restorative ways to do that, and then we'll get into some of the harder stuff. But they all have the same benefits. When you are going upside down and getting your feet above your heart, it's wonderful for your nervous system. It's actually good for your heart muscle. When my stepfather had heart surgery, it was actually something I recommend he did, was just put his feet up against the wall above his heart. It's great for your nervous system. Also, going upside down can just give you a new perspective. It helps you see things differently. When I feel like I just need to look at things in a different way, I go upside down. It gets me out of my head. When you're doing a more complex inversion, like handstand or headstand, I promise you, whatever you've been worrying about, it's really hard to worry about that when you're trying to balance upside down. And it helps the lipid acid drain the other way. It's good for giving your feet a vacation because it always has all the pressure of your body pushing down. So going the other way is beautiful and wonderful and therapeutic. So as far as inversions, there are a couple simple, easy ones you can do for those of you who just want a nice restorative version of this. You can always take Happy Baby. So just lie on your back, grab the outsides of your feet, and remember you must smile if you do this. You can also take Waterfall, just simply lift your feet up, right? Basic inversion, just getting your feet above your heart. Same benefit as everything more difficult we're going to do. You can always just take feet up against the wall and get as close to the wall as you want. And just let your feet rest against the wall. You can just hang out here for as long as you want. It has amazing therapeutic qualities for your body, just letting the energy drain down the other way. Okay, so you're welcome to just go ahead and do that. Hello, Spice. For those of you who want to try a few more challenging inversions, we'll start getting into that. I will say that the more challenging inversions are not recommended if you have really high blood pressure, if you're experiencing vertigo or dizziness. And it's also not recommended if you're pregnant or if you're having arm or shoulder issues. Also, in typical yoga tradition, women were always told not to do inversions when they were menstruating because you're supposed to have the energy draining down the other way. So you can take that for what you want. I will say, if you like to back these things off in terms of medical science, I will tell you that I think there's really nothing to justify that as far as Western medical science. Nothing bad will happen. So, but if you feel like taking a few days off from inversions when you're menstruating, go ahead. I'm going to be borrowing a lot today from my sister-in-law, who taught me a lot of this. She teaches acro yoga and trapeze art at Canopy, and she taught me a lot I know about inversion. So Julie, if you ever see this, this is for you. So we're going to start off just with some wrist stretch, okay? Something that's very important if you're doing any kind of inversion, especially handstands that uses a lot of wrist strength. We need to support the wrists. So stretch out here. By the way, I said the more complicated inversions or difficult inversions are not recommended if you are experiencing vertigo. Legs up the wall, like I just demonstrated, is wonderful if you're experiencing dizziness or vertigo. Whenever I have dizzy spells, it's one of the things I do because it does level out your blood pressure. So that more restorative version would be great for vertigo. Just don't try these harder ones if you're feeling dizzy. Good. Okay, shake that out. Beautiful. And go ahead and stand up. And we're going to start just in Tadasana. Tadasana is actually one of the best ways to practice for handstands, which is what we're going to start off today. So root into the earth. Spread your toes onto the ground. Find the four corners of your feet. Roll your shoulders back and just close your eyes and feel how your body is shifting back and forth in space, right? Perfect balance, like I've said before, is not about always being in a straight line. Just stay here and feel yourself go back and forth, left and right, and feel how you're using your feet to kind of grip the earth and support yourself. This is the same thing you're going to be doing in handstand. It's the exact same thing, just upside down. Your hands become your feet. But it's the same skill here. So what you're trying to do is notice how you're using your feet. Notice how your toes kind of grip the earth if you start to lean forward to help you push back. And even maybe mimic that with your fingers, right? Notice if you can mimic with your hands right now exactly what your feet are doing to help you balance on 2 feet. It's the same thing you're going to be doing in handstand. It's the same exact skill. It's just our fingers now become our toes. Okay? Good. So for basic handstand, for those of you who've never done this before and just kind of want to get used to being upside down, we're going to start off just by walking up the wall. So place your hands onto the ground, take your feet to the wall, and just walk up. So this is a really good way to just kind of build some upper body strength and core strength to just get used to being upside down. For those of you who've never done handstand before, I recommend you just practice that for a while before you take it a step further. If you're ready to take it a step further, we're going to use the wall because it gives us some support so we don't feel like we're going to fall over. And the thing about the wall is this. People often, if they're using the wall, they have this image that if they want to not use the wall eventually, they have to be far from the wall. Here's the thing. If you're far from the wall when you use the wall for handstand, if you kick up and you have your hands nice and far from the wall, notice how my back is very curved in order to reach the wall. I'm having to really curve my back, so I cannot get a really good solid balance there easily. So what you need to do if you're going to use the wall to balance is come nice and close to the wall. It'll help you have straight alignment. It'll help prepare your body to learn what it needs to do when you eventually are not near the wall. So I want your fingers nice and close to the wall. In fact, take them only a few inches away. And when you do this and you kick up, use your hands just like you were your feet. So if you start to fall forward, grip with your fingers. If you start to fall back, then use your palms and relax your fingers. You can practice slowly taking your feet away. And there you go. So practice that until you feel stable with that. And use the wall for as long as you want. Don't feel like you need to come away from the wall until you feel really solid doing a handstand and just leaning away slightly. When you are ready to come away from the wall, the hardest part is psychological. You get very afraid in your head that you're going to fall forward without the wall there to support you. So what I suggest you do if you're going to be away from the wall is to practice that and practice cartwheeling out so that you can overcome that fear and so that you don't have to worry. So in other words, kick up and over kick so that you fall forward the way nobody would want to, and then cartwheel out. So practice that a couple times, and when you feel really solid with that, so that you don't have to have that fear, then you can try kicking up away from the wall. And that's how you do handstands. If handstands becomes hard on your wrist, which it often does for a lot of people because it is taking a lot of wrist strength, then you can instead do forearm stand, which is a very similar thing. Only now you're going to be on your forearms, and you're going to look between your hands, and you're going to kick up, and you should actually feel a little more stable than you did in handstand, because you've got a little bit more of a bed here to balance on. Good. So everybody take a break. Relax. Take a few breaths before we go forward, because we're getting into something different now. So take 3 deep breaths. Okay. That was a lot of information. I want you to digest it over time. I want you to simply practice walking up the wall for as long as you need for a month, for months and months, until you feel comfortable being upside down. Then you can practice the kick up against the wall. Remember, hands close to the wall when you kick up. And use your hands as feet. Gradually practice balancing away from the wall. When you do feel like you want to try getting away from the wall, and honestly, take as long as you need with that, then just try practicing cartwheeling out a bunch so that you can overcome that fear of flipping forward. So we're going to now switch gears and talk about headstands. And headstands are very different because there's no kick up. You're not using momentum. It's all core strength. And what you're really going to be doing more than anything is actually using your core for stability, so you're not using momentum. So classical headstand, which I'm actually, so classical headstand is where you make a kind of shelf with your head, or with your hands. Take it to the back of your head, and you use that to balance your head on. And then gradually use your core strength to lift one leg and then the other. So that's not my favorite kind. I tend to hurt my neck a little when I do that one. My body, just the stability doesn't quite work as well with that one, so I'm going to practice ahimsa, not harming, and just tell you that if that stability works better than what I'm about to show you for you, then you can do it that way. You can also look up, there are many other YouTube videos showing you how to do classical headstand. Many people prefer that one. Me personally, I like the tripod. So the tripod headstand is basically where you're using your hands and your head and you're creating 3 points of contact. So you're creating 3 points of contact here with your head and your hands about equal distance away. And you're using your core very slowly, so completely different than in handstand. And you're lifting up very gradually. This should feel really good and stable. It should feel like you could stay here indefinitely. It feels very calming. It does to me. I feel like my senses actually calm down when I'm upside down like this. I do not feel myself straining. And that's partly because I've learned how to get there gradually enough and find my stability there that it kind of just feels like I'm standing. Except that the blood is rushing the other way, which can be very soothing when my mind is racing. What I love about inversions is it's the best thing if your mind is going nuts. It really does kind of calm the thought patterns. So what I just showed you is one way to get into tripod. My favorite way actually is to get there from crow, because when you get there from crow, it helps have the perfect distance between your head and hands. At least for me, it creates the perfect 3 points of contact triangle distance. So what I like to do is to come into crow position, which we've talked about earlier in my arm balance tutorial. So you come into crow, stay here as long as you like, then put your head down and gradually come in from there. Nice and slow with control. Feel the amount of control that you have here. And breathe. And again, when you get here, this should feel great. It should feel like you can just stay here indefinitely. The sounds are a little quieter. It just feels really good to be upside down, to let the lipid acid drain from your feet. And when you're ready to come out, you can try coming back into crow and come on out. And there you go. So you find the kind of headstand that works best for you. The main thing is it's the opposite of handstands. There's no momentum that you're using. It's all sort of core strength and slow stability. I recommend the first couple of times that you practice headstands, just like handstands, use a wall or put something very soft like a pillow in front of you just in case you do topple over. I did it when I was first practicing. It's normal, it's okay, but I was fortunate to fall out the first couple of times because I got over that fear, and so I stopped being afraid of it, and then I was able to just worry about finding that center of balance and finding that core stability. Again, simply standing in Tadasana is an extremely beautiful way to practice inversions. When you're standing in Tadasana, just close your eyes in mountain pose, feel yourself, find that center of gravity in your standing position. Because the reality is, this is the exact same skill that you're using right here. And this was no easy trick when we were toddlers. It also took millions of years of evolution for us to learn how to do this. So when we do it upside down, it's the exact same skill, we're just now doing it on our hands. I always recommend after you do any kind of inversion, any kind, even the restorative one we talked about at the beginning, do something very grounding afterwards, because you've just gone upside down, you've twisted your body in a direction it's not used to. So maybe take a child's pose and take some breaths. I always like child's pose or something like it where you're coming near the earth, where you can feel the safety of gravity underneath you so that you're not carrying that kind of fear of falling with you into the rest of your day. So calm down to the earth, take some grounding breaths. Always finish off any inversion that way. And be gentle with yourself, practice non-harming. Hello, Spice. Spice has come back one more time to tell you all good job and namaste.